Welcome to the Everyday Matters podcast, a show from NetSmart. Everyday Matters is about the opportunity we have to make a difference. Our collective, cause-connected mission is about impacting healthcare in meaningful ways. We seek to provide a place to share stories about the progress being made, how to overcome challenges, and ideas to inspire. Each conversation is about the work being done and the opportunity before us. Whether it's about advocacy, awareness, or challenging stigmas, we know that together anything and everything is possible. Let's get into the show where we learn from yesterday in pursuit of tomorrow. Here, we all work to ensure every day matters.
The following episode contains sensitive topics, including mental illness and suicide. We want to acknowledge that these discussions can be triggering for some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling, please know that help is available through the Suicide Prevention Hotline, 988, and other additional resources.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of our Everyday Matters podcast, where it's an opportunity to meet people from across the community, near and far, people who are in pursuit to make a difference through advocacy, awareness, and action to help us find our way in creating healthy and thriving communities in whatever work that is. And today we have a special guest. I say special because Mary, one of our own associates, said we've got to have the team on from Carl's Cause. And that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to talk about who Carl's Cause is. We're going to talk about the mission, which is to change the future of mental health by combating stigma, creating awareness, and connecting resources. And I'm joined today by Kelly Specht. She is the executive director, co-founder of Carl's Cause, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But I invite you to maybe pause, stop what you're doing. And so much in this day of busyness, we got a lot going on right now, because we're going to have a very in-depth conversation. We're going to take a break and talk about the impact that it has on our lives, and it's very specific. And our hope, our collective hope, is that if you're listening today, that you're one of those people that can help us stop the stigma that keeps people from getting help, that you can be one of the people to raise awareness that you're not alone, that help is out there, and also help us connect the resources that's out there. Kelly, welcome to the podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Mary was so excited about us being able to come together. Why don't we take a minute? I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the organization.
All right. Thank you, Tom, so much. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yes. So my name is Kelly Specht, and I'm married to Bob Specht. We have 3 children, Megan, Carl, and Connor. And Megan and her husband, Tyler, have gifted us with 3 darling grandchildren, too. So we have Bobby Griffin and our sweet little Georgia Kate that's a year old. So that's our family. And with the exception that we did lose Carl in 2017. So we'll talk about that.
Well, and let's go right there. I mean, this is a story that's extraordinarily personal, and I'll let you tell the story. And Carl was a son, brother. He's a member of a community, much like any of us in today, and found himself in a spot that isn't uncommon that for people to find themselves in. And I'll let you tell a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about how you started, you and the family started Carl's Cause.
Yeah, okay. So I do love talking about Carl because he was a great son, and we were very, very proud of him. He just was, a remarkable, kind human to begin with. But in high school, he was a 3-sport athlete. He was in NHS. He just had the ability also, though, to really find those people who maybe were left out and kind of include them and make a difference. From stories we heard afterwards, just what an impact he made on many people's lives, really throughout high school and college. Carl went on to K-State and was an industrial engineer student, and his whole life he had never had any issues with depression or anything. He was kind of my easy one. compared to his younger brother, who had some difficulties in life that we, continue to work with. But Carl pretty much had the world by the tail, as I always said. He was very handsome, but also very kind. So, but it was during his sophomore year in college at K-State that he had a mental health crisis. He actually had a break, like a mental breakdown, I guess you could call it. And we never had anything like that in our families. Bob and I are both from large families with many generations, and we weren't aware of mental health issues. We'd never seen this before. Carl never had anything like this before. So it really came out of the blue. We didn't know what to do, where to turn. And, through some help with the college, and we were able, he came home for a semester and just kind of had to let his brain heal, because it really was like, I think, being on fire for a while there. And but he did get on some medication, some different things to try to help this situation, and eventually went back to K-State, graduated. He was recruited by a Fortune 500 company and moved to DC for training, and then on to Hermosa Beach, California, where he kind of had his dream job. And he said, someplace where I can play golf every day if I want. And he absolutely loved the fresh air, the great weather. He loved to run. He loved, just anything he could do to be outside and stay healthy. And Bob and I certainly went out there, and after he got settled in and met his roommates, surrounded by good people. And we really thought, whatever happened back in 2012 was just a blip in the screen, and he's doing great. But sadly, about a year or so later, this kind of demon came back and affected him again. And this time, a little more severe situation. And he did lose his job, which was devastating to him, because I don't think people get fired for having cancer or other medical issues, right. But it the mental illness did affect his career, sadly. So eventually, he didn't want to come back to Kansas, but eventually he did, and we're grateful that we had him here for about a year. And that whole year, though, it was just sad watching him trying to, figure things out, and we were trying to get better resources for him. Twice we tried to get him into a hospital, and he, of course, he was very smart and he could talk his way through things, and he was an adult, so we couldn't be in there with them or anything due to any, after you're over 18. So we had no access to care. It did not feel like, and just trying to, appointments are so far out for people because of the waiting list to get in to see people. So just a lot of things kind of compounded, and but it was a beautiful sunny day, June 23rd of 2017, and we got the call, that Carl had ended his life, and so it was just obviously devastating to our family and everybody that knew Carl, I think, because he'd be the last person they'd ever expect, to have this happen. And so,
well, I want to, hearing that story is powerful and a gift. I know there's people listening right now that you're describing their story. Or something similar to it. True. And I know that's also what motivates you, encourages you to want to be able to come and share Carl and with us what Carl's cause is all about. And, you mentioned that 2017 wasn't that long ago. No. And yet we know there's still more work and better ways for us to be able to connect with people. And that's what today's podcast is about. That's what our conversation is today. Yes. Is as a parent, I think one of the hardest things, I'm a parent, is, our love for our kids is just hard to measure. It's hard to quantify and talk about. And yet I hear it in your voice. I hear it in the story. And and wanting to do anything and everything that we can to help them, even when we're unsure. And one of the things that's so much admiration for you and your family and what you're doing with Carl's Cause is you want to help others who find themselves there right now, or those who may not know, or when it does come to go make that happen. I think, this is a great way to honor Carl's life.
Yes.
And so with that, that's what today's is about, is we're going to go from that moment that has changed your life, and you and your husband and family members are finding a way to take what has been really hard and use it for good. And if you're listening today, that's what we want to talk about today. These stories are incredibly hard. They're impactful. They all speak to us in different ways. And what we want the conversation to be today is, how can we make a difference? Maybe in our own immediate personal life, or maybe in a friend, maybe someone we know in the community or neighborhood or schools that we're a part of, and how we can help connect those things. So I want to thank you, because it is it's a gift you're giving us to be able to walk alongside with you. So to you, Bob, and the rest of the family members, we're extraordinarily grateful that you would do this for us. So Carl's Cause.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that,
Yes.
and let's honor Carl's life with the amazing work that you're doing. Because I don't think because you and I were talking beforehand, it wasn't we're going to immediately go start Carl's Cause. It just kind of happened,
Right?
And we'll share the web link, and so that people can hear and learn those things. But in a short amount of time, you've already done a lot of work, and you're making a big impact. And I know you and I and everyone listening and people who are part of Everyday Matters and who are connected with this cause, our hope is that by talking about these things, bringing awareness, is that we're making a difference to people, that one, they're not alone, that community in life is a team sport, and there are resources available to help, and we'll talk a little bit about those. So let's begin with Carl's Cause, and how did that come to be?
Okay. Well, I will say that the week or so following losing Carl, when our whole family felt like we were just in a free fall because we just thought, how will we go on? And my husband made the comment, and he said, we have to bring mental health awareness to the stadium level. And as soon as he said that, it just kind of gave us all some hope. Yeah. Because we thought that's so true. Because if, think about a stadium, you can, seat 40 to 70,000 people. You have all walks of life. You have every age. You have, work communities. You have church communities. You have families. And we thought that that is our goal. We want to bring Carl's Cause to the stadium level. And I had never heard that before, the term stadium level. I love that. Yeah. That is, we're going to connect with everybody in the community, because stadium represents people coming from many different phases of life. Exactly. And it could be parents, non-parents, kids, brothers, sisters, and that metaphor is a really good one. Very ambitious too. It is. To go do that. So yes. I love that. Thank you. And, we've kind of centered a lot of things we do with Carl's Cause around things Carl loved. So he loved sports. He played baseball, basketball, and football all through high school, and loved to golf, and was just a fun person. So we try to keep that spirit alive in what we do. So really, Carl's Cause kind of was started more so by accident, I say. At the time, we weren't in any shape to try to start a nonprofit, right, or had any desire to do that. But we had learned about NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and they were having something out at the K. And when I saw it online, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is it! We can join them. Let's, they're going to be at the stadium." Right. And so, people who don't know what NAMI is, you want to give a little brief description of that? So they're the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and it's really a group of individuals that are volunteers. A lot of them that they hold classes and workshops for families, right, who are maybe living with a loved one with a mental illness. They also do a lot of workshops for people that do have mental illness.
Right.
They're a great resource in the community. We didn't know anything about NAMI, unfortunately, beforehand. So when I started learning about them, we thought, well, maybe this is who we're supposed to partner with. So it was the summer of 2018, and NAMI, it turned out they just had a tent out in the parking lot at Royal Stadium.
You're right.
But we rented a tent as well, had a big tent, and about 200 people showed up, and it was kind of, I always say, Carl's Cause kind of started that day.
That's cool.
Out in the Royals parking lot in a tent. And we just kind of got some momentum then, and my husband's brother insisted that we had a golf tournament that first September, which out at Canyon Farms Golf Course in Lenexa. They were just getting ready to open, and Steve Specht, my husband's brother, said, we're going to do this. He said, I have a lot of members that are retired teachers, and everybody, talks about people they've lost or know
Right.
who they've lost, and they really felt it was important. So reluctantly, we had a golf tournament and raised money, and so then became the time to be where we had to figure out, what direction we wanted to go and what we wanted to do with Carl's Cause.
That is very, very exciting. And I love how, part of this journey is finding healing. And I know there's people listening right now who are looking for that healing and looking for what do I do in that. And I love how you and your family started with your husband saying, we got to get this to the stadium level, meaning in that is, I think sometimes we forget sometimes part of healing is helping others, and in helping others, we help ourselves.
Yes.
And saying, I want to go connect with other people that are out there to let them know that they're not alone, and that if you find yourself here, we can help in areas that we, as you shared, weren't necessarily sure of the resources and the backlog for care and those types of things. And then next thing you know, you find yourself at Royal Stadium with a big old tent and a couple hundred people, and something's happening. And I think that's sometimes how the best things happen in life is when we come together and we say, we've got to find a better way. And instead of looking around thinking, well, who's going to find that better way? You all said, we are. And it's going to be about Carl. We're going to honor Carl's life through this. And in doing that, we're going to be able to make a difference. That's pretty beautiful. So now we're up to speed. Stadium's going. You got the golf tournament has happened and those things. So what happened after that?
Well, so in 2019, we were able to have a really great fundraiser. We decided just to go all out, and it was a dinner, a dance. We had an auction as well, but we also had, by that time, connected with KU Med and the University of Kansas Health System and their new behavioral health department. They were just getting ready to open Strawberry Hill in the fall of 2019. So we decided to kind of partner with them just because we felt like they were doing something that, we couldn't do. It was a resource we wish we would have had for Carl. And we didn't want to reinvent the wheel ourselves and try to come up with a program. So we really felt like the University of Kansas Health System was doing something solid and by opening the Strawberry Hill facility. So they went from about 11-bed unit in the hospital to a 40-bed unit at this new facility. So with our connection there, at our big fundraiser in 2019, they were able to, some of the doctors spoke and helped explain what they were doing and talked a lot about mental health and the importance. And then we had a fun live band and, danced and people, celebrated and enjoyed themselves. And we had over 400 people at that event that night. And there, again, our goal, though, was to raise about $30,000 so that we could donate the workout equipment at Strawberry Hill. We thought that would be a cool thing in Carl's memory.
Yeah, especially his love for sports. Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. Well, we ended up raising quite a bit more than $33,000. So then, we kind of came back to the table and had some more discussions with the University of Kansas Health System and the Behavioral Health Department. We all just became very bonded, actually, through this, too. They're just great people that we really respect and think a lot of. And with that connection with the University of Kansas Health System, we learned then in 2021 they were going to with the Royals, they were having the very first mental health day at the K, which was huge because they have, the health system gets to pick 3 kind of medical reasons or, medical nights for the at Royals games.
Right.
So they always have one for breast cancer and usually another type of cancer or childhood illness. But this was the very first mental health day at the K.
Wow. And when that was 2019?
No, that was 2021.
2021.
So it was after kind of COVID, 2020 there was not any baseball that summer. So it was the next year when things were starting to open up. But the cool thing was that Bob, my husband, threw out the first pitch of that game. And I was in the Buck O'Neill seat. And we rallied all of our people who have been supportive of Carl's cause, and we gave out green T-shirts, and we said, just sit anywhere you want in the stadium.
Right.
And we had over 500 green shirts
Look
in
at
the
that.
stadium that were all, not up high. I mean, they were down low, and a lot of the broadcasters were like, what's all this green about? And everybody had, Carl's cause on the back of their shirt and talked about.
That's the power of community. That's the power of cause. So one of our favorite things here to talk about is we serve cause and community, and that's what fuels us to go make a difference. And hence our hashtag Be the Difference. And you all did that. I mean, let's think about that. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there would never have been a mental health awareness day. It was, we've got these other days and those are things, but to do something around mental health is groundbreaking. And for what your organization has done, along with the partner and being able to say, KU Med saying, hey, why don't we go do this? That's powerful. And that's powerful because there are people out there looking for answers, looking for permission, looking to be told that it's okay to talk about these things. And that's what advocacy does. We talk a lot about advocacy and awareness. People are like, oh, yeah, but what does it do? It makes the conversation okay. You all are making the conversation okay to have, whether it's you or us personally, whether it's someone in our family member or community. And Carl's making an impact in the work that you all are doing by honoring and sharing his life. So pretty special, pretty amazing, pretty cool. And for people who don't know or aren't necessarily connected directly with some of the mental health, green is the color that we choose to use. I'm wearing my green bracelet right here, Everyday Matter, and it's to let other people know that we're supporting you, thinking about you, and we're absolutely advocating for you. So, well, that's pretty big to be able to go do that and have over 500 people there, and that makes a big difference. So, kudos to you all. So, what happened after that?
Well, I mean, I will say that was like such a...
You're like, what else do we do, right? Mic drop.
I
don't know. How do we top that?
Yeah, exactly. I know. And the next year, the Royals were like, okay, let's have another night. We can bring out 500 people. Like, I don't know if we can... without Bob throwing out the pitch again, I think that was a lot of it that people
That's
wanted
really
to see
cool,
that,
yes.
But it was cool. So actually, the next summer, with Blue Cross and Blue Shield and the Royals, we partnered with them and... because we were in conversation, and I said it was the summer that they were rolling out the 988 crisis hotline.
Yeah.
So I said, can we please wait until July?
What a perfect timing.
Do a night.
Yeah.
So we had our Carl's Cause night that night. I think it rolled out on a maybe Friday or Saturday, and the next game was like on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And also happened to be the K-State night, which Carl was there's always so many coincidences. And
yes.
In fact, the game in 2021, we were playing the Chicago White Sox, and they put the initials up on the scoreboard. Well, Carl's initials are Carl William Specht, CWS.
Oh, wow.
And then this 988 game, I thought, I'm just going to see who they're playing. And sure enough, it was the Chicago White Sox again.
Amazing.
So there's just a lot of little things that just give us hope. And because we feel like it is definitely a connection there that we're seeing those signs. And
that is very cool. And 988, do you want to talk a little bit? Not everybody is familiar with 988.
Yes.
Big deal. We've spoken about it on a few podcasts because, again, another resource that wasn't available before. Because who do you call?
Right.
And many times we call 911, but that's for a different type of emergency. Do you mind briefly sharing why 988 is such a big deal for us?
Yeah, I will. So, 988 is called, really, it's a crisis lifeline. They don't call it, a crisis line, it's a lifeline. So it doesn't mean that somebody is in dire need that moment that, something's going to happen. It can also, you can use this resource. They have licensed counselors on that are there, and they can help with any kind of resource that you need. And sometimes it's even, a financial help that maybe a young mother might need help with, something that isn't always mental health. There are different crises. Obviously, it's a lifeline. But when it is a federal number, so it's across the whole United States. When I first heard about it a couple years prior to them, I'm like, why don't they do this right now? Why are they waiting 2 more years? I was like livid. And then I realized, of course, it takes a lot of infrastructure, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of old systems to rethink through and process, and a lot of education and awareness.
Exactly. Yeah. And all these lines had to be, manned across the country. So it was a huge undertaking. So it did take a few years, and then it finally did roll out. I think it was 2 summers ago. And so it's just 988. It doesn't alert police to come or anything like that. It's literally a lifeline support.
Yeah, it's an opportunity that if people need help right now. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening and you're struggling, and you are contemplating what's next for you, and you're looking for direction and you don't have someone to talk to, call 988 right now. Have that conversation. You'll be linked with mental health professionals who will be able to talk and navigate through you, and we'll share some of that in the show notes and resources that are out there. But I'm glad you brought that up. We didn't prepare to talk about that today, and we probably need to talk about it more, because I'm still, a lot of people are still unaware of what it is and what it means. It might be its own podcast, and back in 2017, that wasn't a resource that was available for people.
Right. Then there was a 1-800, suicide hotline, but unless somebody is at that point, you wouldn't necessarily call that. Or the 988, even if you know someone and you want to figure out how to help them, it doesn't, it can be anyone that can call it. So it's really, I tell people all the time, just call and see, talk to somebody.
Yeah, I think, and that's where it begins is, I think in life we can have a lot of connections, and today with social media and our smartphones and those things, we can actually name our connections, but are we truly connected? Right. And that's part of the challenge we find ourselves. Our local county mental health director, Tim DeWeese, will share that we're in an epidemic of loneliness, and I couldn't agree more. And we've forgotten how to have conversation, how to sit down and not have any devices or anything else on and just talk, and we're still human. And the human need for conversation is important. And I hope today, if you're listening to this podcast, you're encouraged by the conversation that Kelly and I have, who's the executive director of Carl's Cause and also the mother of Carl, as we talk about some of the challenging topics around mental health, suicide, behavioral health, well-being, and how we can make a difference. And that's what today's about. Today, the mission for their organization is to help change the future of mental health by combating stigma, creating awareness, and connecting resources. And I think that's a great segue to the next part of our conversation, because as I was learning more about the wonderful work that you all are doing, you've helped out with some pamphlet material that's out there. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that is and what that means?
Yeah. Well, so there is NAMI has an excellent pamphlet called Navigating a Mental Health Crisis. And I never knew it existed. And when I first saw it was after Carl had gone, and I couldn't even read it because it made me sick to my stomach to think I could have had this resource, but I didn't know it. And so the pamphlets, it's an excellent piece that NAMI nationally had put together, but it wasn't getting distributed. It wasn't properly printed, to keep as a piece you hold on to type of thing. So really, Carl's Cause, we donated the funds to get that printed by professionally, have it bound so that people could use these booklets, get them out to more people. There's also a digital version, and I send it out all the time to people.
So let's make sure we include how people can get that and the digital version, because I know immediately people are saying, how do I get a hold of that? I need to be able to see that, and we'll make that available to them.
So that was all NAMI's work. I don't want to, we certainly don't take any credit for the information in it, but we knew we could help fund the
teamwork. Life's team sport. You came and said, how can we help you? This is incredible material. The reconciliation of your own self, of saying this would have been really valuable, and then using that to say, I want to help other people that are out there, is pretty powerful. And, let's talk about the future. Let's in that piece. So, are you still doing the golf tournaments, and when's that held?
It's always the Monday after Labor Day, so the second Monday usually, or in September.
Right.
We always have perfect weather. Last year we did have a little Irish mist coming down most of the day, but
well, that's very appropriate for golf.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So,
Yes.
And in Kansas, September, that's not necessarily bad either. So
yeah, but it's a great day. The tournament usually sells out in about 10 minutes, usually, because everybody who's participated wants to come back typically, and we try to, we don't want to make it too huge, but it's a great day, really impactful, and we've now, been raising significant money through the golf tournament.
And is there opportunity for people to sponsor or do some of those things? And they can find about that on the website?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
And what are the funds being used for?
So that is something we're very proud of, actually. So I mentioned how we had partnered with the University of Kansas Health System. We did donate the workout equipment, and we started realizing we could do more than just a small amount. We had a pretty good community of people behind us. So with the fundraising we had done, we met with them, and what they said what they really wanted to do was start a behavioral health navigator program. Right. So I had recently spoken to a friend of mine whose husband had a cardiac issue and was at KU, and after he got out of the hospital, he had a navigator, and this navigator helped him all through, after he left the hospital, how to navigate on to rehab, all these things. And it almost made me, just sick to my stomach there again, because I thought, why couldn't we have had something like that? Right. And in behavioral health, there has never been a navigation program because navigators are all privately funded. Right. And people don't give back to behavioral health. There just isn't that funding there available. Right. So we decided.
But you're changing that.
We are, yes. So we decided that the Navigator program was absolutely what we wanted to give our money towards starting. And an excellent woman who started the program found, she looked all throughout the country and there was nothing like it. Wow. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yes. So she started it from scratch at the University of Kansas Health System. She was the very first navigator. Now there are 3 navigators in place, which I'm proud to say. One is with Marillac for children, and there's been 2 for adults. And obviously the need is...
If people wanted to find out more about the Navigator program, where would they find that at?
Well, it is part of, it's, I think when you're in the health system, it's more of like, it would have to do more with when you're released from the health system after an inpatient stay. So it's not like a freestanding, what I want to, kind of.
And we have many providers that listen to the podcast, and then we work with them in the community. And I know I could just imagine they're thinking, I want to hear more about this Navigator program. So we'll find, I know there's been some write-ups on it and things spoken. We'll include those in there with some contact information as well, because I think that's revolutionary. It's game-changing. It also speaks to the whole sport and the teamwork piece of it is, and it's not just an acute episode that, hey, we fixed and everything's done. Now we're going to walk with you through that journey of healing, recovery, strengthening, and resiliency, and being able to give the tools and resources and support that people need to be able to do that. How powerful is that? And this is why organizations such as your own and Carl's Cause start is you're filling a gap, a void that hasn't been out there, and raise your hand and saying, we're going to use this to make a difference and find a way to do it. Question for you. I know many good things have happened. You've impacted lives. You mind sharing a couple of the things that have come out of Carl's Cause and the impact it's had in the community and the people you know?
Sure. Well, there is a really great story on our website, and it's kind of like it's incredible. But at one of our golf tournaments, we always have a big box of green rocks. We call it the Green Rock Project. It's something one of Carl's fraternity brothers had started in Colorado and told us about it. So we basically have green rocks that have a positive saying and our website and everything on the back. And so one of our daughter's friends had come in from Minnesota to play in the golf tournament, and she took a green rock back with her. She left it on a golf course called Madden, which I guess is Madden's. It's a beautiful golf course in Minnesota. Left it on the golf course, didn't think anything of it. And so October 13th happens to be Carl's birthday, and I opened up my laptop because I thought, well, I should check the Carl's Cause, emails, because I don't look at them every day. And there was an email that said, "You saved my life." And I first didn't know, I thought, what in the world is this, and who wrote this? And I start reading the story, and true story. So a woman who was from South Dakota she and her friend had gone down to Madden to play golf that weekend, on a weekend, and she was planning on Monday to end her life. A lot of times people do something they love, they seem really good right beforehand, right. And they're on it because they have a plan, and she had a plan for Monday. She was going to end her life. And so on Saturday they were playing, and her ball bounced next to the green rock.
No.
And it just said, "You are loved." And she turned it over, saw our website, and so she and her friend went back to the hotel that night, and she didn't say anything to her friend, and her friend had no idea about her plans. And so she looked us up and looked up the information on Carl's Cause, and she said, but it's still, she still felt like the need, which her plan she had. And so on Sunday, her friend said, well, let's just play the back nine before we leave. So she said, okay, and they did, and her ball ricocheted over and landed by the green rock on Sunday.
Wow.
I know. So she told her friend what was going on, and they left from there and sought some help for her.
Kelly,
I know.
That is beautiful. And would not have happened if you, your husband, family, didn't have the courage and strength to offer Carl's story through your own pain to help other people. And through a golf tournament where a box of green rocks was found, someone brings it up, leaves it there, that someone finds it and saves their life.
Yeah. A woman from South Dakota saw it in Minnesota, and then this was all in September. The email she sent me after she got out of her treatment was on Carl's birthday.
I got goosebumps right now, and I'm like, okay.
Can't even make it up. It's like, so that, that's a story that we all...
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing the story. Thank you for the work that you and the family and so many of your friends are doing. We talk about having a ripple of goodness. That's what ripples do, is through one thing, we do something, and that finds its way. And sometimes we don't even know through the subtlest thing. That's why we make pamphlets. We do these cause-connected awareness events. Wearing green shirts is because you never know who's listening and the difference that it can make for them. I can't think of a more beautiful story to give an example. You're fortunate to find out. Right. How many times has that made an impact that we don't know, but that good is absolutely happening? Yes. It is powerful. And in so many ways, you're hitting on what this Everyday Matters podcast is all about. Everyday Matters is quite simply, what can we do individually to make a difference in our words and where our feet find us and our deeds, to make so that we can bring some goodness, kindness to someone that is struggling, and we may not even know it. It might be a smile, a conversation, a moment to just sit down. It might be a green rock that finds its way, that lets someone know you're not alone. You are loved. You are loved. What a powerful message. And then for them to take the time to tell you what a gift to you and what a beautiful way to honor Carl's life. What would you want to say to someone out there that maybe is looking for help, wondering what to do for someone in their life, and things that you've learned and know now? What encouragement or direction would you give them right now in that same ripple of goodness, if you will, that same power of the rock? What would you tell them?
Well, that's a good question, and we, between Bob and I, we probably have somebody reach out to either one of us probably 3 or 4 times a month,
Right.
that has a loved one that's struggling. And we do wish we had all the answers. We wish it was an easy fix, but it isn't. Probably, I think mental health or mental illness is probably the worst illness there is, because, it's a kind of a lifelong battle. It's something that you don't see, so people,
Right.
you can't put a cast on it and get over it and be well. So I do always tell people, the resources that are out there. I think NAMI is just an excellent resource because they hold a lot of parent support meetings or
Right.
groups, and where people can talk about that are going through similar things and support each other, because it is it can be a lifelong battle. And,
Absolutely.
I wish there was a walk-up clinic that was easy and accessible to everybody, and when you needed, you could just go in and get help. But Tom, it's hard. That's a very hard, probably the hardest thing, because psychiatrists are, in demand, and their schedules are backlogged, and it's just, it's not an easy.
No, I think it's a little bit like the rock you shared. What was the message on the rock again?
You are loved.
You are loved. And I think people need to know they are loved.
Yes.
And it may not be clear what the next steps are, may not be necessarily obvious, but you're not alone. You're loved, and it matters.
Yes.
The whole thought behind everyday matters. I want to thank you for the gift you gave us today, the gift that you're giving us in the organization, to bring this awareness around this, the opportunity for us to be able to make a difference, whether it's the resources that it's out there, the connections that we make, showing up at a ball game, participating in an event.
Yes.
All those things make a difference because they show the power and beauty of community.
Yes.
Taking something that, like these bracelets you and I are wearing, or a pamphlet or a rock,
Yes.
can dramatically have an impact on someone's difference, like they shared with you. And today you gave us a gift on our podcast,
Well,
and
thank you.
very personal. And you shared it eloquently and very inspiring.
Thank you.
And I know as a parent, moved and motivated even more to find our way to make each and every day matter. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
If you are listening to this podcast, we will have resources available at the end of things that both Kelly and I spoke about today. We'll give you resources to 988, to counseling and professional help and resources that are out there, material and links to Carl's Cause website, because you may be motivated right now saying, I want to help. I want to be able to do something different. And you don't have to wait. You can get involved now.
Yes.
You can start wearing these bracelets,
That's
having
right.
the conversation and doing those things. And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us on today's podcast. These are opportunities to talk about things in life that find us far more alike than not. An opportunity to link arms and come together and to make a difference each and every day. And that's why we are passionate about the cause and communities we serve, because we have an opportunity to make every day matter. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.
You've been listening to Everyday Matters, a NetSmart podcast. Keep connected with us by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you like what you've heard, please rate the show. That helps us keep sharing the stories that inspire our communities. Thanks for listening. Until next time.